He's never once said that he regrets Hiroshima. He'd do it all over. Why? Because it made him the most important man who ever lived.
In ancient Greek mythology, the Titan Prometheus stole fire from the gods and handed it to humanity. It was a gift that sparked human civilization, but it came with a terrifying price. Zeus punished Prometheus by chaining him to a rock where an eagle would tear out his liver for eternity. When biographers Kai Bird, Martin Sherwin wrote the definitive story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, they chose a telling title, American Prometheus. Oppenheimer gave humanity the atomic fire. He believed he was solving a fixed existential crisis, stopping Nazi Germany, but the moment that fire was unleashed, he realized it couldn't be contained. It triggered a geopolitical chain reaction that haunted him for the rest of his life. Today, we are standing on the precipice of the second fire, but this time, it isn't burning in the desert in New Mexico, it's burning in the silicon chips of Silicon Valley, and the creators of artificial intelligence are staring in the exact same abyss that Oppenheimer did just 80 years ago. To truly understand why AI is our generation's nuclear moment, we have to look at how radically ahead of his time Oppenheimer actually was. He wasn't just a brilliant physicist who predicted black holes. He was a political prophet who understood the terrifying mechanics of scale. Once the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer's perspective shifted entirely. He saw that humanity wasn't just making weapons used in war, they were creating systems capable of destroying the entire civilization. Because of this, Oppenheimer fiercely opposed the next logical step in the military tech, the hydrogen bomb, or the super. While the original atomic bomb relied on fission, which had a physical ceiling based on critical mass, the H-bomb relied on fusion. Theoretically, its explosive yield was infinite. Oppenheimer argued that the H-bomb was no longer a weapon of defense. It was an instrument of pure, unconditional genocide. He pleaded for international governance. He tried to warn the world that if we didn't establish a global body to control nuclear materials, we would lock ourselves in an inescapable game theory trapped of mutually assured destruction. The political establishment didn't want to hear it. They stripped his security clearance, humiliated him in a rigged 1954 hearing, and sidelined him. They wanted a technician, not a philosopher. The weapon built at no matter the existential cost. This brings us directly into the present day. For years, AI was like the early atomic bomb, a highly specialized, bounded tool. It could play chess, organize data, or optimize search algorithms. It had a ceiling. But we officially entered the H-bomb era of artificial intelligence. We are transitioning toward AGI, artificial general intelligence, and autonomous agent networks that can recursively rewrite their own code and self-improve without human limitations or intervention. Just like fusion, this new iteration of AI has no physical ceiling and has no bounds. In many ways, it is actually more dangerous than the hydrogen bomb. Think about the economics of non-proliferation. To build a nuclear weapon, a nation-state needs a massive infrastructure. You need billions of dollars and enrichment centrifuges, specialized radioactive isotopes, and massive missile silos. Because of this, only a tiny handful of sovereign nations possess them. AI completely shatters this security paradigm. As a dual-use software, the exact same foundational model used by a pharmaceutical company to discover a life-saving cancer drug can be inverted to map out entirely new synthetic bioweapons. According to global safety reports, advanced models can already match or outperform PhD-level scientists at troubleshooting complex laboratory protocols. If a rogue actor wants an H-bomb, they can't just build it in their basement. But if a rogue actor wants to use an AI agent to scan critical infrastructure for a massive cyber attack or design a vaccine-resistant pathogen, they don't need a superpower's budget. They just need a high-end graphics card and internet connection. We have taken a tool of infinite scale and democratized it. Because the danger is so intensely parallel, we are witnessing an unprecedented historical echo, the profound crushing guilt of the creators. Oppenheimer famously sat in the Oval Office with President Harry Truman and said, "Mr. President, I feel I have blood on my hands." Truman later called him a crybaby scientist and told his staff he never wanted to see him again. Oppenheimer confessed that when a scientist sees something that is technically sweet, they rush ahead and build it, only arguing about the ethics after they've achieved technical success. Listen to modern Prometheans, and you will hear Oppenheimer's ghost speaking directly through them. Geoffrey Hinton, universally recognized as the godfather of AI, shocked the world when he quit his high-profile job at Google. Why? So he could freely warn the public about the existential risk of the very technology he spent his life pioneering. He explicitly stated that a part of him regrets his life work. Ilya Sutskever, one of the brilliant minds behind GTP4, went through the widely publicized psychological and ethical crises inside OpenAI, reportedly growing so terrified of what they were evolving toward that he pivoted entirely to focus on super alignment and safety before ultimately walking away. These scientists are experiencing a modern form of the phantom blood on their hands. They were seduced by a technically sweet problem of teaching silicon how to think, and just like the physicists at Los Alamos, they woke up the morning after the breakthrough and realized they handed a weapon to a political and corporate machine that has absolutely no intention of slowing down. Before the Trinity test of 1945, physicists did a calculation to ensure the atomic blast wouldn't completely trigger a fusion reaction in Earth's atmosphere, literally setting the sky on fire and destroying the planet and turning it into a star. The math said the chances were near zero, so they pushed the button anyway. Today, tech conglomerates and global superpowers are pushing the button on advanced AI every single day. They know the risk, and the leaders of AI labs have signed public letters that stating AI poses a risk of human extinction on par with pandemics and nuclear war. Yet trapped in a ruthless corporate and geopolitical arms race, where stopping means letting your competitors or adversarial nations win, they keep training larger models, they keep feeding the fire. Oppenheimer was incredibly ahead of his time because he realized that human survival eventually requires us to do something incredibly difficult. We have to learn how to say no to our own power and curiosity. We ignored Prometheus's warning 80 years ago, and we built a world balanced on the knife edge of nuclear annihilation. As we unleash this second fire, we have to ask ourselves, will we finally learn from Oppenheimer's nightmare, or are we destined to watch the atmosphere burn? Long before his security clearance was stripped, Oppenheimer predicted 3 core realities that are unfolding word for word in the modern AI landscape. The game theory trap. He warned that without an international cooperative body to govern nuclear secrets, nations would be forced into a perpetual state of fear, overproducing weapons simply because they assumed their rivals were also doing the same. The weaponization of technically sweet. He understood that scientists and engineers are hardwired to solve complex global puzzles. If a breakthrough is possible, someone will build it first and worry about the moral alignment of that creation only after it's fully operational. The bureaucracy of power. He foresaw that the moment a breakthrough transitions from a scientific project to a state weapon, the creators lose all agency. The political, military, and corporate machines will violently push aside the philosophers in favor of compliant technicians who do not ask ethical questions. This is brought to light 80 years ago between the conflict between Oppenheimer and Lewis Strauss. The chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission at the time was a clash of 2 fundamentally different worldviews, one deeply humanistic and cautious, the other intensely paranoid and institutional. Strauss was a champion of the hydrogen bomb and a firm believer in the unilateral American dominance. He viewed Oppenheimer's public warnings about the arms race and his skepticism of the H-bomb as borderline treasonous. Nursing deep personal resentments over being publicly embarrassed by Oppenheimer during a congressional hearing on radioisotopes. Strauss set out to completely dismantle the physicist's credibility. Strauss has meticulously engineered the 1954 security clearance hearings that was incredibly rigged that we talked about earlier. He weaponized the anti-communist hysteria of the Red Scare, fed J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI derogatory information, illegally tapped Oppenheimer's phones, and restricted Oppenheimer's lawyers from seeing classified evidence. Strauss successfully stripped Oppenheimer of his security clearance, effectively exiling the father of the atomic bomb from the halls of government and fracturing his legacy. Strauss believed that his victory was total. However, his vindictive campaign created deep, lingering resentment among the global scientific community and independent lawmakers. In 1959, President Dwight D. Eisenhower nominated Strauss to be the permanent Secretary of Commerce, a position Strauss desperately wanted as a crowning achievement of his public career. During the grueling 2-month Senate confirmation hearings, the ghost of Oppenheimer returned. Prominent scientists, including physicist David L. Hill, stepped forward to testify under oath, exposing Strauss's personal vindictiveness, arrogance, and history of deceit. June 19, 1959, the Senate shockingly rejected Strauss's nomination in a narrow 46-49 vote. It was only the 8th time in U.S. history that the cabinet nominee had been defeated. Strauss was utterly humiliated, forced into permanent political retirement, and spent the rest of his life watching his name be synonymous with a political witch hunt. By destroying Oppenheimer to protect his weaponized bureaucracy, Strauss inadvertently laid the groundwork for his own absolute political ruin. The toxic dynamic between Oppenheimer and Strauss is playing out inside the big tech sector, showing that humanity hasn't changed its script, only its technology. In the 1950s, Strauss argued that any hesitation to build the H-bomb would allow the Soviet Union to conquer the world. Today, big tech executives and venture capitalists use the exact same rhetoric. If we slow down AI development for any safety reasons, China will win. Under the banner of geopolitical dominance, corporate leadership acts like Strauss. They marginalize safety research, dismantle internal ethics boards, and label whistleblowers as doomers or obstacles to progress. The corporate machine demands the tech be built as quickly as possible, mirroring the exact institutional pressure that pushed for the H-bomb. Just as Oppenheimer was exiled when his moral objections threatened the state's military agenda, we are seeing a massive purging of safety-first minds in modern AI labs. Leading AI safety researchers have been fired or forced out of major tech companies after raising alarms that advanced models are being deployed too quickly and without any adequate alignment or safety guardrails. Tech leaders who once advocated for slow, careful iteration are routinely sidelined by board members and investors who prioritize immediate commercial development over long-term existential risk. AI developers are currently trapped in the exact same intoxicatingly pursuit that Oppenheimer described. Training a model with trillions of parameters to see if it can achieve human-level reasoning is the ultimate technically sweet problem. The engineers rushing to solve it are often shielded from the broader societal fallout, such as automated cyber warfare, hyper-targeted disinformation, and democratic distribution of biological weapon blueprints. They are building the systems first, assuming society will figure out the problems later. The tragedy of the Oppenheimer-Strauss affair is that the political machine successfully sacrificed long-term survival of humanity for short-term strategic dominance. Oppenheimer was right. When you create a technology with infinite capacity for scale, you cannot manage it through corporate competition or national secrecy. If modern tech creators and government regulators continue to replicate Strauss's ruthlessness and ignore Oppenheimer's warnings, they will inevitably find themselves trapped in an unaligned AI arms race that, unlike the Cold War, humanity might not survive to see it or regret it.